Good morning. My name is Lisa Daisel. I'm from UNISA's Counselling and Career Development Directorate. We wish you a very warm welcome to this morning's session. We will be talking about exam preparation. With me, I've got my colleague, Dr. Chipiwa Kodisang. As we are going through the presentation, you're welcome to post your questions in the Q&A section. We will attend to those questions either throughout the session or then at the end. Thank you very much for making the time to be here this morning, and welcome, Dr. Kodisang.
Good morning. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to everybody who joined us. This is the time of the year that we are approaching exams. A lot of us, we have already received the timetable. So we thought it's relevant and appropriate that we speak about exam preparation this morning. Why it's important that we focus on preparation. One, we acknowledge that you may feel overwhelmed by things you may not be managing well and the uncertainty about what the future holds. I was thinking this morning about the uncertainty of the exams and the current load shedding that we are experiencing. And I could imagine to you as a student, you might be feeling very overwhelmed. Every day you are thinking, will I be able to write my exams? Will I be able to prepare? We must, however, remember that you can choose to embrace this opportunity to complete your exams, since it can provide you with stability in these uncertain times. Even though we have load shedding, it doesn't mean you must already decide, I am not ready, I'm unable to prepare. You could still say, I'm starting to prepare in a way that I can, so that I can write the exams. Regardless of the type of examination you will be completing, it is important to prepare as thoroughly as you can, because it still gives you in-depth knowledge in your module. Sometimes we think I'm writing open exam or it's just a portfolio. Remember, what is important is not only just passing the module, it's also how you internalize the content and the in-depth knowledge. Part of preparation is to prepare you as an expert, is to prepare you to be this person you want to be in the future. Thank you, Lisa. Of course, every time we think about exams, there is always anxiety that gets provoked. And most of the people always say, you know, when I'm preparing during the year, I'm always okay. But when it's exam time, I feel very anxious. It's very understandable. And think about this. Think about the dream most of us have to climb the Kilimanjaro. We normally call it the majestic mountain of East Africa. It takes a lot of preparation before climbing becomes a reality. And that preparation is emotional, is physical. One must be fit, have the right equipment as one moves from rainforest to snow-covered areas. You even have to have a particular type of food. I always joke with people that even though salads are very healthy, but you cannot take salads when you are going to summit. You need oxygen bottles, but also you need to be in the right mindset. As we are talking today about examination, we can also look at this examination as your personal Kilimanjaro, and how your mindset is either an enabler or a stumbling block. Remember, each of us, if we summit the Kilimanjaro, at the end we're gonna celebrate. The same applies with the exams. Once you are done with the exams, you're gonna celebrate. So think about these exams as your personal Kilimanjaro. What are the things you need to prepare for? What are the things you need to overcome? It's important that sometimes we also understand anxiety, but maybe we look at emotions, because exam, part of the preparation, part of writing exams, it could be a very emotional journey. Emotional because you are scared, you have got dreams, you have got things that you are looking forward, which all that are emotional. According to the American Psychological Association, emotions is defined as complex reaction pattern involving experiential, behavioral, and physiological elements. Sometimes you will think, then you will start feeling in a particular way, and you start behaving in a particular way. Emotions are how individuals deal with matters or situations they find personally significant. Exams are very important. We want to overcome our personal Kilimanjaros, maybe through passing these exams. So therefore, they are very personally significant. Emotional experiences have three components. There is a subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. Feelings arise from an emotional experience and from the perception created by the self. So it's important that we have emotional preparation for the examinations. Why it's important? Because part it provides us with an opportunity to understand ourselves. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand what are your weaknesses and strengths related to your examination preparation. But also that helps you to understand what can you do differently now. Sometimes we focus on the past that could overwhelm us. What is important is what we can do now in the here and now. You also need to be accountable. Accept responsibility for what and how you prepared previously and move forward as you know yourself better. You can make the changes you require for success. The fact that you have failed the module previously, you could look back to say, I failed this module because I didn't follow the instruction. What I will do now is 1, 2, 3. You also need to practice successful emotional preparation for the examination. Most of us, we've got a tendency to undermine or to dismiss that we are emotional beings. We need to be in touch with our emotions. And it takes practice and time to own your own mistakes, to get to know yourself better, and to take care of your body so that you can handle, for exam stress. That means you need to have strategies to help you to focus on how you respond to stress. Do you become an overthinker? Do you become discouraged? Do you get overwhelmed immediately when you start thinking, I won't manage this? It's important that we also understand thoughts, feelings, and behavior. In most of the situations, there is what we call a trigger. Our current reality, the trigger is the exam preparation. And there will be a thoughts that create feelings. Thoughts could be, I will be judged on my performance in the exam. Or am I ready? And I am ready and need to review my notes one more time. Those two types of thoughts will trigger different types of emotions or feelings. When we look at feelings, you could start feeling afraid, anxious, or paralyzed if you are thinking you will be judged on your performance. But if you are thinking you are ready, you will say, I am nervous and ready. You start taking deep breath and commit to your learning task. At the end, all that trigger a particular behavior. If you are scared that you will be judged on your performance, you will start avoiding sitting at your desk to review your work and start cleaning the house or be on the social media, something that does not provoke the discomfort and the thoughts and the feeling. On the other hand, you could start taking your books and pick up where you stopped and make notes or review notes and also prepare exam papers. Remember, this cycle feed into each other. When you start feeling nervous, you start thinking more and more in a negative way, which also affects your behavior. At the same time, when you start behaving in an agitated or discouraged way, it affects your thoughts, and at the same time, it affects how you feel. We can look at approaching your learning. There could be anxiety versus confidence. You need to remember, even when you are preparing for exam, if you are doing surface learning, it provokes anxiety. And surface learning, that's when you memorize for assessment. You don't take time to internalize your work. Even surface learning leads to failure to distinguish principles from example. You then focus on discrete facts without integration, or there is very unreflective about purposes and strategies in your learning process. At the end, you start feeling very anxious because you are feeling very empty and uncertain about what you are doing, and you can see that you are not taking in more than what you need to take in. Furthermore, that leads to low long-term retention. You can't really remember and internalize what you are studying. Whereas if we are looking at deep learning builds confidence. What is then deep learning? It's active search for meaning in your studies. You interrogate what you are studying. What does it mean to me and to the person I want to be? There is also vigorous interaction with the content. Furthermore, you relate new ideas to own experience and previous knowledges. So you are very involved. You are interacting with your learning or with the content of what you are reading. This also helps you to relate concept to everyday experience. You then feel more confident, and it also impacts on long-term retention. As we continue, there are some of the situations that also leads to surface learning. You registered late, you paid late, maybe also due to factors beyond your control, you access your material late. Maybe there is challenges with module, which was problematic. We can all acknowledge that. Difficulties maybe within your own as a person, which create, challenges. It could be family, it could be community, but also late submission of assignments as a result of disruption. It can also lead to surface learning just to meet deadlines. We can also look at confidence and deep learning as well. There are certain decisions that you need to make to ensure that you manage deep learning that can enhance your confidence. It's important to decide when your study timetable will be. Sometimes there are circumstances that overwhelms us. Maybe you are waking, but maybe you could decide, I will need to study in the morning. Have a structure and organization that helps you. You also need to keep to your timetable. Yes, there are factors that are beyond our control, but if you keep to your timetable, it reduces the decisions you need to make. Deep learning kicks in once assignments are done. If you think about driving a car, deep learning is like driving a car. It's very overwhelming at first, but it becomes automatic with practice. When you are starting to drive a car, you can't remember when to change to 1, to 2, to 3. But when you get used to that, it becomes a normal process, a spontaneous process. Deep learning means making connection and integrating information continuously. You must remember that as a human being, all tasks we are involved in contain emotions. As I said earlier, it is normal to have low and high emotions. That's who we are as humans. Acknowledging them helps you to make an appropriate plan, sometimes also to live in that particular moment, but then you deal with the situation. We cannot help it but to talk about the environmental factor that we are experiencing now, like load shedding, especially during examination and preparation. It can have a severe effect on your sense of control. We can just acknowledge that. We can acknowledge it now, because if you carried along by other strong emotions, your emotions such as fear and anxiety might be amplified. You are carrying the emotional load of other people on top of yours. Also, if you pretend to be strong and the emotions are there, they tend then to resurface during inappropriate times. That's why most of the time we said, I blacked out during exams. It's not what happened at that moment during exams, but it's the emotions that we have been incubating. We could have this recommendation to refer to daily updates of the notices on my UNISA to make sure that you use a reliable source of information. Time and again, I get messages of people where they got messages from the groups, from the chats, or from Facebook, and they are very overwhelmed. And some of that information is inappropriate. So it's important to manage. You need to manage your source of information now, but you also need to be connected to your source of information that could help you to be contained and minimize the sense of being overwhelmed. Keep yourself on track by checking how important your studies are in your life. Remember, as you are summiting Kilimanjaro, when it's difficult, you need to remember the cause of why you are summiting. It's also important to give gratitude for every small achievement in your life because it has got a positive effect and it helps you to benefit from where you come from. As people summit, they take time to sit down to just reflect on what they have achieved so far and how much they have covered and where they are physically and emotionally. When emotions are overwhelming, you can do the following. Make a list of your immediate priorities. It could be writing the exams tomorrow. Explore options and opportunities after the exams. Looking for employment if you are worried about what you will do after the graduation. I just want to add an experience of a student who said, I went to write this exam because I knew from this exam, even if I failed, I would have experienced something different that I can use in the future. Let's talk about preparing for exams. It's important to get yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially ready. It's also important to set realistic and achievable goals for each of your modules. We can only do that by setting a timetable and focus your energy on prioritizing your studies and preparing for your exams. There are a lot of things that all of us have to look at. Some of them are distractions, so we need to minimize those distractions. Check the syllabus for each of your modules. Ensure that you have worked through the material for each of modules at least once. Revise your work by going through your notes and practice previous questions from assignments and exams. Don't cram or do selective studying. This can lead to confusions when questions are not asked in the way that you prepared them. That normally happens when you have done superficial learning, not deep learning. Inform your family and friends about your exam timetable and explain how the online exam will work, because you need them as a sense of support and also that they understand where you are in your Kilimanjaro. Inform them of your needs during this time, maybe not being disturbed while completing the exams and other support you may need. Maybe there are limitations with the physical spaces and you need to reorganize or renegotiate for space. You must not just expect people to understand. You need to negotiate with them where you are, your needs, your challenges, and the demands so that it can be negotiated. Highlight sections that you experience as challenging and seek support in terms of this. Sometimes people say, this is challenging for me, I will just leave out. You are robbing yourself an opportunity to experience those sections that are challenging in a space where you understand them. Understand the exam guidelines and the format. I have seen sometimes students will complain later to say, but I didn't know this was expected, because you didn't take time to understand the exam guidelines and the format. We can ask, which resources do you have and use to prepare for the examination? It's a big question. It could be physical resources, It could be emotional resources. It could be practical resources. Which resources do you have? Resources for exam preparation. Remember, you need your notes. You need your tutorial letters. You need your study guides. Remember, because UNISA is distance learning, your study guides becomes the guides that helps you. It's like lectures that would have been presented in full-time university. They provide the objectives, and you also need the prescribed books. Remember, to have deep learning, you cannot do it just with study guides. You need your assignments, you need your fellow students and lecture, but you also need things like UNISA website to just go on study skills, exam preparation, or even understanding references. That's very important. Let's quickly talk about effective exam revision. Remember to avoid procrastination. If you need to do something, sit and do it at that particular time. Also avoid distractions. Stick to your timetable. It's important to prepare mock exams and write them. It's also important to take care of ourselves physically, exercise, eat enough, and get sufficient rest. We can also not prepare properly if we cannot identify our demotivators and deal with them. But it's also important to reward yourself. You could reward yourself by different things. Even sleeping can be rewarding. If I sit for 4 hours, I will take a nap for an hour or for 30 minutes. You are rewarding yourself. If I sit and do revision, I will go for an exercise or I will go on Facebook. You are rewarding yourself. You need to think about what do you still need to do to pay attention to. Which of the following do you still need to pay attention to? Set up a timetable and make a commitment to stick to it. Exercise, eat enough and get sufficient rest. A positive attitude will help you to cope with exam anxiety. Maybe you are still in a space where you are struggling a bit. Do you then need to reframe your attitude? Stick to your timetable and also have time for other commitments, renegotiating weekends and other activities. If you are working, do you still need to arrange for study leave? Is there something that you feel you need to contact your lecturers or e-tutors if you are unsure about some aspects of the work? Do you still have to discuss your timetable at home and explain what it means and also what it means to do online exams? You also need to think about, have you identified and created an environment that is conducive to write your exams? Set up your venue in such a way that it's like the traditional exam. Set up a table and a chair. You know, with the new system, there are a lot of instructions that we need to adhere to. Are you making sure that you have adhered to sitting in an upright position or all those other aspects that are required from the Invigilator app? Have a pen and a paper ready to make notes or do calculations. Create space for your notes and study material. If the exam is an open book, it means that you can have materials with you as specified in the exam guidelines. But we are living in different times and every exam has got different demands with the Invigilator app. Kindly ensure that you familiarize yourself with the app and you follow all the processes. You also need to identify a space to put and connect your device. Also think about if you need backup, whether it's backup for charging or for Wi-Fi connection. Before the exam, make sure you are familiar with your device and you know where to find things. For example, if you need a specific app, MS Word to writing sentences, essays, or short paragraph, then download this and learn how to use this before the exams. As part of your preparation, play with all the things that you know. By the time you start with your exams, you are familiar. We can look at exam revision. It's important to count all the pages in your study guide and textbook and divide them into the days left before you write your exam. See how much you need to study each day in order to be ready for the examination. We spoke, do not cram the night before. In actual fact, even when you are studying, you cannot cram. It normally overwhelms you and it leads to blackouts, and you might not remember even some of the things you crammed a night before. Let's look at problem solving. Subjects such as accounting, mathematics, physics, and chemistry and computer science involve a lot of problem solving exercise. Solve at least one of each of the types of problems found in every section, especially the ones you find difficult. You also need to know the formula. As part of exam revision, it's important to look at the mock exams. They help you to prepare for the exams, but another part which is important is assignments and notes. Revise your assignments, answers, and pay special attention to comments from your lectures. Use keywords to make a concept list which covers all the major concepts and, where applicable, formulas that you have covered. Use note-making techniques such as mind making, text mapping, and the question and answer system. The question and answer system is particularly useful when you have turned learning outcomes into study objective into questions, because that is sort of the pre-exams. You are creating your own mock exams. We cannot talk about revision and we cannot then ignore looking after yourself. Remember, you are the main actor in this whole play of exam preparation and exam writing. So you need to make sure you get enough sleep. On a physiological level, drink enough water, stand up and stretch, run on the spot before you sit down, and continue with your studies. Something that is very important for me, it's also monitor your breathing, how you breathe in and out, and how does that helps you to deal with the anxiety and relaxing your body. Oxygen is very important for our brain. So sometimes we need to be very intentional and really take some time just to breathe, and this deep breath in and out. Some final thoughts. We must remember exam is only an exam. Exam is not a reflection of your self-worth, nor does it predict your future success. We must just understand the exam is part of an academic activity that is not linked to your own personal space. If the worst happened and you fail an exam, you are still a worthwhile person who will live to enjoy another day, or you will still make it in this career journey, even though you failed the exam. I could imagine you have had previous successes in exams. You have survived exams and received good results for them. Otherwise, you would not have gained entry to university. Focusing on your exam preparation during these uncertain times can provide you with some stability and will help you focus on your future goals. And remember, the only thing you have control over is just to sit and prepare. Thank you very much. I would want to end up by emphasizing that exams are a very important part of our journey in our academic life and our career, and also in our personal life. It is through these exams that we want to summit the Kilimanjaro. Maybe it's our family Kilimanjaro, maybe it's your personal Kilimanjaro. But remember, these exams does not determine that you will not reach the top of the summit. Thank you. You can contact Counseling and Career Development at counseling@unisa.ac.za or on our website, which is www.unisa.ac.za counseling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Korisang. As I was listening to you, I'm thinking about, we often get emails or we have conversations with students who are really so worried about the exams that they're even thinking about not going to write the exam. So I'm wondering if you could share some insight on, if I'm a student and I'm thinking about that, I wouldn't even want to go and write this exam. What are some of the things I could think about?
Thank you, Lisa. I always like this concept of allowing yourself to experience yourself differently than what you are thinking. So you might be sitting now thinking, I'm going to fail the exams. If you then don't write, you just leave that reality, but you never tested it. You never also allowed yourself to experience a different reality to this reality that you will fail the exam. Last month, I was talking to one of the students in medicine who was supposed to write a very important exams. She did acknowledge she was not ready, but she started sharing with me that as she is preparing every day, she realized how her whole practice has changed as a medical student. Every day she was learning new things, and every day she was implementing those new things into her practice. And at the end, she then said, I did not pass the exams, but the whole process has changed me, has made me grow. I am better as a person, I'm better as a practitioner, but I'm also better prepared for future exams.
Thank you very much for that response. From my side, I don't see any questions from those who are attending. I want to also acknowledge that we understand that there may be, some circumstances that impacted on people being able to attend this session live, but we will be making a recording of the session available on our YouTube channel. So if you go to www.youtube.com/Unisa Careers, you'll be able to view a recording of this session. There are also many other sessions that we've recorded over time that may help you to prepare more effectively for the exams. So from our side, thank you very much for attending, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to everybody. All the best.